All right, we are back talking with Patrick Gates from the Oddsbreakers about the Championship. Patrick, how the heck you been doing, man? The Open has kind of snuck up on me. It's been a busy week. What's been up, man?
Nothing. Doing well. Yeah, it's those Open Major Championships. I know there's kind of that big break, obviously, from now until we go to Augusta, but they seem to fly by, don't they?
Yeah,
It seems like
yeah.
just last week we were talking about the U.S. Open, and now here we are at the final major of the year, the Open Championship.
Yeah, man. I'm excited for it. I think it's interesting looking at some of the players that I would have expected to be higher, or worse odds, let's just say, guys like Rom, it's like, why is he, how come his year's been so bad? I suppose having kids maybe has something to do with that a little bit. I can definitely relate to that. But it's just so interesting watching at these numbers. But before we get into some of these numbers here, and I know we're kind of late, so we're going to talk a little bit about a live perspective as well. Tell us a little bit about the course and the course information from your wonderful article at theoddsbreakers.com.
Yeah, so if you haven't, obviously be sure to go check out that article at the Odds Breakers. Yeah, so we head to Royal Troon. Interesting course for sure. It features the shortest hole and the open course rota, but also the longest as well. The weather conditions kind of look to be what we expect for an Open Championship, but it looks like the predominant scoring chances are going to come on that front nine, particularly holes 1 through 6. They typically play downwind. So if you are live betting, and Thursday looks to be a little bit rougher than Friday and Saturday, so kind of look for those longer hitters, per se, your Wyndham Clarks, your Rorys, your Scotties, and your Brysons to maybe make birdie or better on, let's look at holes 1 through 3. I think DraftKings offers that. That's going to be where they need to kind of try to pick up their scoring opportunities, because as soon as they hit 7 through about 9, it's going to be a little bit tougher. And then once you hit that back 9, the wind kind of switches on these players, and it's going to be par or better is going to be kind of the par, is going to be kind of a great score as they head into 18. So I would expect mainly kind of every player who has that distance to be aggressive, especially on the front 9 here at Royal Troon.
All right. Well, there you go, especially on the front 9. One thing I heard about the course is that the greens might be a little slower. And is that because of the wind?
Yeah. So typically what they'll do, I mean, you've heard Brooks Koepka mention in the past of saying he wasn't going to play in this event because sometimes that wind does just kind of blow the balls off the green. So the stimp is a little bit slower than what we see for other traditional majors. It's rolling at about a 10 right now, which is going to allow a little bit of rollout, but not too much, where the balls aren't going to kind of completely roll off the green.
Okay, that's interesting. That's my kind of course, man, because
Yeah,
I think
exactly. Slow greens, yeah, easier to putt, yeah.
when I hit
my silent golf as well.
I'll hit a putt slow, and I think, oh man, it's going to be short, and then all of a sudden it's 10 feet past the cup, and I'm like, how the hell is this happening? Even enough about my terrible golfing. Well, let's talk about some of the winners and who won this event recently, and how are they looking this year?
Yeah, so the last time we saw Royal Troon was back in 2016 when Henrik Stenson won. He defeated Phil Mickelson. It was kind of a duel between just those two as we headed into Sunday. Before that, we saw it in 2004. So the course has increased in length, roughly about 150 yards from 2004 to 2016, and then again from 2016 to this current edition. They kind of keep lengthening the golf course out, adding new tee boxes just to kind of supplement that increase in distance that all these players have now started to gain with the new equipment and everything. So yeah, last year at the Open Championship at Royal Liverpool, Brian Harman won, kind of a longer shot that we didn't really see coming. With all the other with all the other majors, especially kind of Augusta, the PGA Championship, and now even the US Open, driving distance is key. But here for this Open Championship, we kind of see these guys who are a little bit more accurate off the tee, kind of thrive, a little bit older, of guys who can almost plot their way around the golf course better, especially at Royal Troon. If there's any sort of errant tee shot, these players are really going to struggle to make par on any particular hole, unlike the U.S. Open at Pinehurst, where we saw Bryson kind of just whack it as far as he could on Sunday and then just kind of play from the fescue areas. But that's not going to be the case this week.
Okay, good stuff. Well, does that correlate with some of the favorites here? And I'll just even pull them up. You have Scheffler, of course, 5-1. Rory's at 8.5-1. Xander Schauffele is 12-1. Morikawa 14-1. Aberg. Wow, it's interesting seeing Ludwig Aberg. Actually, he's been doing pretty good. 20-1, and Bryson at 20-1 with all his power. And then there's Rahm, who was great last year and the year before, but now it's kind of all up to Scotty at sitting here at 22-1. So
yeah, I think Scotty's won 6 of his last 10 starts. He hasn't played since the Travelers, where he took down Tom Kim in a playoff. Unfortunate for us, as we had Tom Kim that week, but that's kind of how this season's been going. A lot of runner-up finishes. So Scotty, this is the one major that he has kind of struggled in. He hasn't exactly figured it out. Link-style golf isn't his favorite per se. So while maybe looking at Augusta and other major championships, you can justify a 5-1 kind of solo card with Scotty. I don't think that's really the play here. Rory played fairly well last week at the Genesis after that U.S. Open blow up. He has won the Open Championship before and does kind of thrive in these link-style golf courses. So he's another one to look at. Xander obviously just won his first major championship and then also won the Genesis Scottish Open, I believe, last year or 2 years ago. So he's pretty familiar with the link-style golf as well. Ludwig's been great this year. He got his first PGA win last year. And then this year, he just really hasn't been able to kind of close out that 54-hole lead, which he's had a few times. He kind of got screwed a little bit at the AT&T Pebble Beach Open earlier this year, where it was cut short to 54 holes, and he was one shot behind Wyndham Clark. Rahm, coming off, he withdrew from the U.S. Open due to an infected toe, played in the past 2 events on the Live Tour, and I think he's done pretty well. So he's another one. And then Hatton, traditionally, you don't kind of see him at that 25-1 number. He won Live Nashville and then played really well at Liv's event last week. Again, Englishman, loves the link style golf. So I do actually have a bet on Hatton this week. I think he can play pretty well. So those are kind of the favorites here as we look at the odds boards.
Well, it's so funny. It's like the market's telling you something about Hatton here. That's what I think, being only 25-1, it's telling you something. So that's maybe, kind of ties into your handicap that you have over on your right up at the oddsbreakers.com. So how are you approaching this from a betting perspective? Are you going to play some winners, top 5s, top 10s? Are you going to do some match play?
Yeah, so I think I have about 6 or 7 outrights on the card right now, and then 3 top 20s as well. And then going even further, 1 top 30 and then 1 top 40. I did add a live bet the other day. There's top lefty on DraftKings. Robert McIntyre is the favorite. He recently won the RBC Canadian Open, excuse me. And then last week actually won the Genesis, kind of getting his revenge from last year, making a birdie putt on 18. So he's the favorite in that market. But he's played well kind of in the Open Championships before, but I really think Akshay and Brian Harman, who I have bets on, they're both coming into this in good form. Harman obviously won the Open Championship last year. Akshay was close to closing it out at the Rocket Mortgage and has already won on tour twice, this year at the Valero and last year, I believe, at the Barracuda or the Barbasol. I can't think. One of those alternate events. So I like those two. You can kind of sprinkle half a unit on each as a way to still be able to profit, but kind of increase your chances in that field. And I mean, there's only 6 players in that top lefty field. When you're really looking at it, there's Phil, an amateur, and then 2 other guys that I just don't really think have a chance. So I think it's kind of a 3-horse race, and I'll take the 2 at Harman at 260 and Akshay, I think, at 350 to try to beat McIntyre when looking at that. So if you scroll all the way down, I think I just added a live bet in.
Okay, I'll scroll all the way down here to see where you put it here, and I'm guessing it's under the Twitter feeds. This is the end.
1 tweet up. One more.
1 tweet up.
Yeah,
cool. There, yep, there it is. I love that top left-hander. Brian Harman plus 260, and but is it Batia?
Yeah, Akshay Batia.
Yeah, at plus 350. That's fun. I think I'm going to have to jump in with you on that one. That's an interesting. I'm glad that DraftKings put these odds up. So they always get pretty creative out there with some of the stuff. But you can find all Patrick's stuff here at the oddsbreakers.com. You got a top 40 finish. You got plus 145 on Si Woo Kim. Can you explain what your thoughts are on Kim?
Yeah, so Seawood has been playing pretty well this season. He hasn't exactly thrived at link style courses, but he does kind of rank highly in the key stats that I'm looking for this week. He did play well in the US Open. So he does have some pretty decent major experience, and at top 40, giving plus 145 is a pretty good price. Other books have him around kind of that plus 115 range to plus 120. So I like Sibu a lot this week. Probably one of my favorite bets is that Cam Young top 20 at 2-1 right now. So Cam Young comes into this with back-to-back top 10 finishes. He was close to contending in the Rocket Mortgage and kind of blew up in the final round, which has been kind of his kryptonite his whole career. I think he has 7 or 8 runner-up finishes, snapped his driver on one hole. So he was playing with a 3-wood for, I think, at least 5 or 6 holes on the back 9. But he does have the distance, even with his 3-wood, to kind of contend with the rest of the field. So I think he took a few weeks off, and I think he comes back recharged. He's played well in the past 2 Open Championships. So I think 2 other top 10 finishes. So Cam Young at 2-1, I think, is probably my favorite bet of this week, especially with those odds. I mean, you get the live guys back, and kind of, especially in these major championships, the odds for the placement markets are fairly good. So I try to take advantage of that as often as I can. Usually I kind of do 2 top 20s, but I really like all 3 this week.
Yeah, Finau, Cam Young, and Brian Harman all at pretty good numbers here to get into the top 20. Get 2 of these, you're going to be looking really nice. So I like that. And then obviously, you're taking a few good shots. Patrick's never been your style to take the favorite here. You got Scotty up there, and it's almost like the favorites wear out their welcome on your card a little bit, don't they?
Yeah, and especially at the Open Championship too. We've seen some major long shots come in, especially at Royal Troon. So I guess this is kind of your major if you really do want to take a few shots. And yeah, I've never been one to exactly play the favorites, and I think that's correlated to my horse racing handicap as well. So I think it just kind of goes hand in hand. But yeah, as much as Scotty does fit this course and everything, there's so many variables, especially with the weather, the different tee times. And if he's really not driving the ball well, I think this it opens it up to pretty much the rest of the field.
Yeah. And Rory, 8.5-1. Everyone says he's due, but he's been due since 2014 to wear the major. So it's just a situation where you're like,
yeah. And how well, how well does he bounce back from that collapse on 18 at Pinehurst? This is his first event since then.
That's true. He seemed to be confident in his interviews. Do you typically go for guys that you like, even though you didn't bet them, if they're kind of in the final round and into a potential win, especially if your guys are out, I guess?
Yeah. Obviously, I think you have your favorite golfers. Fitzpatrick's one of mine. He kind of, I was on him, I think, back in 2022, 3 weeks heading into that US Open Championship, which he won. So he paid me back pretty nicely. So he's always been one of my favorites. But yeah, you certainly do have those guys that you root for. But obviously, I think winning money is a little bit better than your favorite golfer winning a major championship or any tournament for that fact.
Tell me about it, man. I'll fade my college and pro football teams in a second here if I'm going to make some money off it, my man. Well, that's great stuff. Where could our listeners get all your great information, man?
Yeah, you can find my article at the Oddsbreakers. If you haven't checked that out, be sure to do so. Constantly adding new information to that. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at Gator Betting and on Instagram at Gator Sports Betting.
All right, make sure you guys check that out. A lot of great plays, and geez, it's just another amazing article by Patrick. Everything's got a table of contents out front, so you can just jump to things. If you want to hit key statistics, excuse me, you just jump right into it. And there's all kinds of, and I should just reshare the screen here. There's all kinds of just wonderful graphs, in here that he makes, and all these charts, and just kind of shows how a lot of the players are going to approach this, and the hole and how the course actually plays. So it's just amazing information. Patrick, once again, thanks for coming on. We'll be talking soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kev.